He is a perfect trade target for the New York Knicks, as a news outlet has just revealed the exact player that the New York Knicks need to go out and acquire and exactly what it will cost to get the trade done. And we got to break it all down. What's up, guys? I'm Matt Long. Welcome to Knicks Basketball 365. If you're a New York Knicks fan, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out a ton. But let's jump right into the news for today. Coming from Sports Illustrated, the New York Knicks might have stumbled onto their solution by accident. During their 130-125 road win over the New Orleans Pelicans on December 29th, they watched a potential trade target put on a clinic against them. Saddiq Bey dropped 26 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists in 36 minutes. He knocked down contested threes, defended multiple positions, and never wore down despite playing heavy minutes. It was the kind of performance that makes front offices pay attention. And the timing couldn't be better. New York has been searching for front court depth after depth issues have continued to plague the rotation well into December, with rumors swirling around an idea that would send Guerschon Yabusele and Hakeem Dadier to the New Orleans Pelicans for Bey may be a great fit. Now, here is the trade that we are being suggested here. Guerschon Yabusele and Hakeem Dadier to acquire small forward from the New Orleans Pelicans, Saddiq Bey. This is a good trade for both sides because it is a 2-for-1 for us. We have a lot of depth, but would acquire a better player. And then the New Orleans Pelicans, who have one of, if not the worst record in the NBA, they get a player in Hakeem Dadier, who was a first-round pick in recent seasons for the Knicks, who is still extremely raw. He's still a very young player. He could have upside in the future, but right now the Knicks are not in a position to sit around and wait for guys to develop, especially when we were looking at the way that the back half of our roster has developed. Guys are coming in and playing at a high level, even though they've only played sparing rotational minutes. And this team is a team that's ready to compete now. So that's why you are comfortable, if you are the Knicks, sending away Hakeem Dadier and getting a player who you know is going to fit into the rotation. And you also can get rid of the contract of Guerschon Yabusele, a player who has not been even close to living up to expectations. Now, Saddiq Bey, he is a 6'8" small forward for the Pelicans. Bounced around on a couple teams over the past couple of years, but his stats are pretty solid for a rotational guy, which is what he would be for us. This season, averaging 15.1 points per game, shooting 44.2% from the field, only 31.8% from three. So this guy's kind of, some people are trying to market him as a 3-and-D forward, but he's not really a great three-point shooter, despite him having a good three-point outing versus us a couple nights ago. Good free throw shooter, which is always something you like to see. Averages 5.8 rebounds per game, 2.3 assists per game, and almost a full steal per game. This is a player that would fit in very nicely to the Knicks rotation and is someone that we really need to be taking a very close look at acquiring. And now, I know this is one of the number one names that we are looking at and that not only Knicks fans want, but the front office has been taking a very close look at Saddiq Bey. And now, I know a lot of people don't like the idea of giving away a player in Hakeem Dadier who's still very young, still very raw, and clearly has untapped potential. It is whether or not you think he's going to be a great player in the future doesn't matter. What everyone can agree on is that Hakeem Dadier is not at his ceiling right now, and if we sell him now, we are not selling him for the highest price that he ever could be sold for. But some of that uncertainty and that untapped potential is the reason why the New Orleans Pelicans would do this trade. Like, they're not going to just give up, no matter how bad they are, they're not going to give us a quality player to help us improve our roster without giving them something back. So even though it may seem unlikely that Hakeem Dadier turns into either a star player or even just a rotational player, I mean, I do think it's likely he's a rotational player at the worst, but even as unlikely as it is that he even may ever be as good as Saddiq Bey is, the Pelicans can still attach themselves to that hope that he can be a rotational player for them for the future, because that's a team that is currently building for the future, despite the fact that they do not own their first-round pick this season. They traded their 2026 first-round pick unprotected to I actually don't know who they traded it to, but they gave it away. They got back Derek Queen. Really bad trade, even if Derek Queen is a really good player. Just breaking down real quick what the contract situation is looking like for Saddiq Bey. He is owed just over $6 million per season. That's why it makes sense that we can send the Guerschon Yabusele contract combined with the Hakeem Dadier contract, and the numbers would line up. And then you would hope that the upside of Dadier makes it so we don't have to send more draft picks in the deal on top of that over to the New Orleans Pelicans. One little discrepancy you may notice, if you took a look at the stats for Saddiq Bey versus the contract, you may see it says last year he was on the Wizards, while the stats said that he was on the, it says he was on the Hawks, signed with the Wizards, never played for the Wizards, was injured, and then traded to the Pelicans. So that's where that ends up happening. But since we are hard capped at the second apron, we cannot take in more cap salary than we are giving out, which is why we need to match the salary in the trade, which means if the Pelicans don't want to pick up the same amount of cap, it would have to be a 3-team deal, but I do think it is likely that the Pelicans themselves would be interested in making a move like this because they do get, like I mentioned earlier, the potential upside that Bacome Dadier brings to the table. He was, I believe, only 18 when he was drafted. He was an extremely young player when we drafted him out of France. He was originally expected to be a draft and stash player, but then we decided to take Bacome Dadier overseas and add him into our G League roster and sometimes even making it into the games right now. But it's going to be really tough for Dadier to ever really establish a role with the Knicks because of the way that Kevin McCullough Jr. is playing. I know Tyler Kolek's a guard, so their numbers aren't, their minutes don't exactly clash with each other, but every single young player like Tyler Kolek as well, or like Ariel Hukporti, every single other young player that plays well instead of Bacome Dadier, that just makes it less and less likely that Dadier will ever be able to carve out a real role, earning real minutes with the Knicks, and that's perfectly fine. Sometimes there are players who are talented and their role just isn't with the team that they're currently on. It doesn't mean Bacome Dadier is not a good player. It just means that either the fit's not there or what's very more likely right now is just the opportunity isn't there. Tom Thibodeau hated playing the young guys, and I know Mike Brown plays them a lot more, but Bacome Dadier still has not found a way to break into the rotation with this expanded rotation, expanded even farther by the injuries to Miles McBride, who is now coming back, and expanded with the Josh Hart and Landry Shamet injuries as well. So you would expect that if Bacome Dadier was going to be able to make a difference with this team, it is very likely that he already would have made that difference, which is what gives me confidence that we can send him away in a deal. And even if it is for a shorter term player like a Saddiq Bey, you're not worried about giving up too much upside in the future if you do go ahead and trade away Bacome Dadier. Guerschon Yabusele still not living up to that contract he was given over the offseason. He's a guy that we know that he's a good player. For whatever reason, it's not working out with the Knicks. He's a guy who needs not even a fresh start, just a change of scenery is what Yabusele needs. I don't think the Pelicans are a good change of scenery, but we got to match the salary. And at the end of the day, that's what you got to do to give up Saddiq Bey. And this is a trade that I am 110% in on for the New York Knicks. And I think it is something that they need to take a very close look at doing if we want to make this rotation be as strong as possible for the rest of the regular season and for the playoffs. But that's what I got for this video. If you stuck around this long, I appreciate you taking the time to watch the video all the way through. Please hit that like button if you haven't already. Hit the subscribe button if you're new to the channel, and go Knicks.